What is going on, everybody? Welcome to one of the best days of the year. NFL free agency is upon us. It's like, I think the new league year officially is in like 2 days, but this is definitely when it feels like it's go time. It feels like we have arrived at the next season, which is always exciting. Not to mention, other than draft day, there's not a bigger time of players changing hands, things to react to, takes galore. So this is always one of the best streams every year. We already have 300 of you in here. Thank you so much for joining here today. We're going to be going for about 2 hours. I've got a Twitter feed here going here. I haven't seen any big news yet, but I figured we can kind of catch up on a lot of the news that has transpired over the last 2 days or so. And I do need to pull up on another tab here a list of NFL transactions. But how is everybody doing? Drop in the comments who you want your team to sign. For me, I would like the Green Bay Packers to sign either the two guys I would like the most would be Derrick Henry or Justin Simmons to make a little bit of splash there. Talked about Derrick Henry on the Fully Inflated Football podcast yesterday. For those that caught that show, I might as well take that as an opportunity to remind everybody that I do have a podcast. If you don't follow along to it, it is the Fully Inflated Football podcast. You can follow it here on YouTube. There's a link right there. But let's, I suppose, I'm going to have to keep refreshing this. Classic Saints renegotiating, moving money around. That's not news. That's just, is the sky blue? The Saints have moved money around to create cap space. That's just like humans breathing or fish living in the water. That is par for the course. Packers also targeting Xavier McKinney. I like that as well, man. Get a nice free safety in there for the new press man system. Okay, NFL transaction tracker. What's the best? Maybe ESPN. Chiefs trade for Rashid Shaheed is something you want to see. That'd be nice. That'd be like the perfect little cheap acquisition for a guy that would blow up on their team. I am very curious to see, you would think the Chiefs can't really do anything if they're going to keep Snead, right? They just gave Chris Jones $34 million. Snead is an expensive franchise tag. You would think if they're going to keep those two, they won't have the freedom to do anything else, you would think, but the NFL's crazy like that. Sometimes teams make, I didn't think the Niners could sign Javon Hargrave last year. Granted, they just released Eric Armstead kind of as a reaction to that. So a year later, the salary cap isn't real until it's real. PFF has a good transactions tracker. Let's see if I can find that, because then I can kind of go down the board and react to everything that has happened so far. Jags, Patriots, Titans, Panthers are teams to watch for Calvin Ridley. That makes sense to me. Yeah, PFF does have a pretty good one here. So let's scroll down. All right, let's scroll down and start with the Hunter Henry returning to the Patriots. I don't really have any opinions on that one, to be honest. They needed to revive something of that offense, even though there's not a whole lot to revive. I feel like PFF is missing some stuff here. Let me pull up the SPO track, because this is the perfect way to kill the downtime as these signings lead up. 49ers are signing Brandon Allen. That's the first signing, I think, since the legal tampering period opened up, is a third-string quarterback to the Niners. Not very exciting. Let's see here. All right. Yes, Spotrac has a very good one here. So I'm going to go back like 5 days. And I'm going to scroll through and see what stands out here. So we got the Jalen Johnson signing was 4 days ago. Justin Simmons released 4 days ago. That seems... Maddox was released by the Eagles 4 days ago. 5 days ago was when the Bills were releasing everybody. So let's start on March 8th and work our way up to present time. So the first transaction I'm going to start with is the Eagles releasing Avonte Maddox. That's a small name, but he had a quick fall off, man. Maddox was one of the 5 or so best slot corners like a year ago. So they release him. They obviously need corners. So that one's a bit of a surprise that they would do that, but I suppose they need to clear up cap space and stuff. People in the chat are saying, did the stream die? I really hope not. I hope I'm still here. But yeah, I get the Eagles need cap space, but that's just clearing cap space and creating more issues. So he's going to be under the stream did die. What the hell? I don't see anything on my end. I think we're good. It must be on your end, whoever's saying that. But anyway, Maddox will be an interesting name to follow. I feel like he could be a nice little slot corner signing for someone. All right, we have our first signing. The Bears are signing DeAndre Swift to a 3-year, $24 million deal. All right. I mean, I wouldn't have, that's not where I'd be spending my money if I'm the Bears. You have Herbert, you have Roshan. That's a lot of money for Swift that I'm just not a big DeAndre Swift guy. Every other run, the dude's looking to bounce things outside. He had a very lucrative situation in Philadelphia. He had like 3 good games. As a Packers fan, I see that signing and I'm like, great, go spend your money on a non-upgrade at running back. He doesn't scare me at all. So, the surface level money on all of these is something we always need a reminder to be careful with. 3 years, $24 million. It's probably more like a 2-year, $12 million deal when you really look at it. I don't really get that one. I don't get what he does that Khalil Herbert's not doing for you. So kind of an L, honestly, on our first piece of news there. But let's keep going back to the free agent tracker here. I've got so many tabs open right now. I have 4 tabs going right now. So if you see my eyes bouncing around all over the place, that would be why. So we talked about Avonte Maddox. Let's talk a little bit about the Denver Broncos, who have released Justin Simmons 4 days ago. I am optimistic that they are going for the tank, in that Sean Payton's like, look, I tried this for a year. We kind of competed, but I need to blow this thing up, get cap space, you name it, and just reset a year from now. And I think them and the Patriots are interesting teams to follow. If those two teams are not really spending any money, I think that would be a sign that they probably won't be drafting a quarterback in the first round, and are just kind of trying to hit the reset button a little bit. But it definitely a couple of interesting teams that are like in a position where they could just, I don't want to use the term tank, but take a reset year when the AFC is freaking nuts right now. Like the thought of the Broncos and the Patriots competing in the AFC it just does not compute, right? Not this year. So why not try to make sure that pick is as high as possible, play young players, clear up cap space? That's the direction I'd be going. The question is, does Sean Payton have the patience to do that? But them releasing Justin Simmons kind of screamed that to me. So the Jaguars had signed Ezra Cleveland. We're still catching up on transactions here. I'll just try to hit the refresh button on Twitter here every time I get to a new player. That way we're not missing any news as we go. But Ezra Cleveland, for 3 years, $24 million. The Jags traded for him, a guard from Minnesota. I thought he kind of struggled in Jacksonville's offense, to be honest. You know, he came from kind of that wide zone Shanahan style offense where his athleticism was really useful for the Vikings as a run blocker. He went to Jacksonville where it's a lot more shotgun, gap, inside zone stuff. And outside of some highlight blocks on poles and screens and stuff, I thought they could have just let him go and used that money elsewhere. It's certainly not the end of the world, but I saw that. I was like, I feel like he's kind of a replacement level guard in their system. So that one was a little much. That's kind of what happens, though, when you trade for a guy. Oftentimes you talk yourself into paying that guy. Vic says Ezra at 8 APY is a freaking steal. I would agree if he was in more of a move block type of system, you know, like he was in Minnesota. I just don't think he showed that he's a good player for Jacksonville. So I thought that was interesting. The Dolphins continue to be interested in fast tight ends. They signed Jonnu Smith for 2 years, $8.4 million. I mean, I suppose he's a starting player for them. It's funny to me. McDaniel is always so interested in speed at tight end. Like, he drafted the kid out of Stanford, Hodgins, I think is his name, Higgins. He's like, oh, he's going to be this interesting speed tight end piece. And, you know, they traded for Chase Claypool kind of with the vision of like this undersized move tight end. Jonnu Smith is a guy that can actually do that for them, but they just haven't really, they've sought out those types of players is what I'm saying, but then they've never actually put it to use. Like they get to the practice film and they see these undersized tight ends that can't block, and they're like, oh, actually, we don't really need another piece here. We have Hill, we have Waddle. Let's just play the big blocking tight end. So I'm always going to be curious when McDaniel adds a playmaker like that, but would I be surprised if Jonnu Smith just fades into irrelevancy in Miami? Not at all. Deion Dawkins got released. Dude, the Bills. All right, we have to talk about that. That's wild. So here's what's crazy to me about the Bills. I actually agree that they're kind of looking at this as a transition season. They feel like their window was the last 2 years. The Von Miller signing was like the last sort of go for it move. And now they just have all these aging veterans on expiring expensive contracts. What I don't get is why not make the coaching change now? Like, this is obviously heading towards firing McDermott, isn't it? Like, I think the Bills will still be competitive. I think it's going to be very hard for them to compete for a Super Bowl next year. And I kind of like their thought process. Like, look, like I said earlier in the stream, the AFC is effing nuts right now. Like, Aaron Rodgers is coming back. Joe Burrow's coming back. Miami's got one more year kind of in their window, but even Miami's kind of in a weird transition, I suppose, as well. But, I mean, Chiefs, obviously, I think are only going to be better next year. Like, if you're going to have this transition season, don't you want to go through your learning curves with the new coach? So it's like they've made this decision. I don't know, man. I feel like they should have, if they knew this is what they were going to do, they should have fired McDermott, gone after, like, see if you could have convinced Ben Johnson to be the Bills head coach. I know he said he wanted to go back to Detroit, but it's a different animal if you get the chance to be Josh Allen and the Bills head coach. So I think long term they'll be just fine, but I would have rather they just fired McDermott now, put him out of his misery, because you're taking all his players away in a transition season. Jalen Johnson was extended. Really, all of the franchise tag guys and the with players that were extended, I don't really have like big takes on it. I think it was kind of expected, and the team should have done that, and they got it done. As far as the money, like under 20 a year for Jalen Johnson, if he stays healthy, that's well worth it. If he doesn't stay healthy, you know, you're going to be frustrated by him missing some time, as he has really throughout his career. And I think that follows him back to his draft pedigree, where there were some concerns about durability that had him fall to the second round. So that's really the only knock on Jalen Johnson. The dude's awesome. He was one of the best corners in football last year, so that was a no-brainer. We got some super chats, by the way. I can't ignore those. The cliffhanger, should the Patriots give Flacco a 5-year deal? Obviously, yes, they should make Joe Flacco the franchise quarterback. Flacco will be back in Cleveland, right, as their backup, don't we think? And then Ryan says, thoughts on Derrick Henry buying a house in Dallas? Certainly interesting. I guess I never know what to think of like that kind of news, like guys buying property, or when guys like unfollow their teams on social media. It's just like trying to speculate about that stuff is so difficult. But I have always kind of pictured Derrick Henry in Dallas. I'm not gonna lie. Like, they took Zeke in that draft. I always felt like Derrick Henry was neck and neck with Zeke as a prospect that year. And Derrick Henry went in the second round and ended up being the better player. So maybe 8-9 years later, they can have their retributions for that. I don't know if retributions is the right word there, but I would like to see it. Certainly. But Dallas is also probably a nice place to own a house and set your sights on retirement at. Like, if he found a house he loved, he knows he's going to retire in a few years, wants to live in Dallas when he's done, I'm sure he can afford to have a house down there on the side. So I don't know. Daniel says he now has 2 houses in Dallas. Yeah, I mean, maybe he's got a big family and he's buying property in Dallas for them. I don't know. Let's keep catching up on transactions, because right now there does not appear to be any big news. This is interesting right here, though, from Jeremy Fowler. The Eagles attempted to re-sign DeAndre Swift before the tampering period with an offer. So that means they were willing to pay some money for a running back. I don't know if there was any weight to it, but that they were in the mix for Saquon Barkley. That is a landing spot that I would love to see. I talked about that on the Fully Inflated Football podcast yesterday. A couple more super chats from Bryson. What are you expecting from the Vikings this offseason? Dude, I mean, that's like the ultimate question, right? Is what the hell happens with Kirk Cousins? That's like the big domino that we need to see fall here. I still think whatever they do, they think they're going to be competitive next year. That's why I would be a little bit curious if they went the J.J. McCarthy route in the draft. Just because he's so young, and I don't think anybody's expecting J.J. McCarthy to like come in and make you a playoff contender right away. But with what Flores did for that defense, you feel like you're going to have a very solid defense, and the offense is ready to cook next year, dude. So I think whatever they're doing, they're trying to compete. I expect they'll lose Danielle Hunter, because I think he's just, amidst all of the Kirk negotiations and stuff, they can't really think about Danielle Hunter, and he's just going to end up going somewhere else. But beyond that, I don't really have a good answer for you until we know what happens with Kirk. I think they want Kirk back. They just don't want to give Kirk 3 years, $130 million if that's what he wants, and that's what like Atlanta's willing to pay him, you know? So, yeah, that's all I got on the Vikes. Thanks for the super chat, Bryson. Appreciate you. Super chat from Michael. I think Russell Wilson is an atrocious move considering his age, is showing, and the circus he brings with him. Do you think any different? I don't think it's an atrocious move. I tweeted out last night that it's the definition of mid, and at least my understanding of mid is it's just a meh, okay, whatever type of deal. Not that it was a horrible signing. Though I think some of the kids out there think mid means it's horrible. So that's besides the point. I think the key on that is the contract. 1 year, $1.2 million, like literally no risk involved, right? They could cut him if they want. If Kenny Pickett responds to this and looks awesome in camp and they're like, you know what, Russ, this actually is not going to work. We'll just cut you. Or they'll wait for someone to get injured and trade Russ. He's a very valuable trade piece. Like Russ is probably the 25th best quarterback in the NFL or something like that. And to have that in your back pocket on a 1 year, $1.2 million, whether he's starting for you or not, is great. But I do think he will be starting for them. And it's horrible in the sense of like, I always want teams to go for it, like try to get a top half quarterback, try to actually compete for a Super Bowl. The Steelers have well crossed the line of just boring us with year after year adequacy, right? And this is another year of adequacy. Like they will probably win 9 games. They will probably compete for the playoffs, though if all the quarterbacks aren't getting hurt in the AFC next year, I don't know that they'll make the playoffs. And then Russ will be gone, and they'll be literally right back here in the same exact spot, except Cam Hayward will be another year older, and TJ Watt will be another year older. And George Pickens will be another year closer to a contract extension. Like, I think they have talent, but they just aren't making the high-level moves that could set them over the edge, and I think that's frustrating. Keep reading through these super chats. Broshmo, what's up, my dude? We got to get together for a mock one of these days. I know we're both busy, but thanks for stopping in. Thanks for the super chat. Watching good players hit free agency because the Dolphins can't afford them or replace them because of limited draft capital is starting to become a tradition. Yeah, they really mishandled this, like, especially with Christian Wilkins. If you felt when you acquired either Jalen Ramsey or Bradley Chubb that it was going to cost you Christian Wilkins, I don't think you make that move, right? I mean, unless you really were saying we are going to win the Super Bowl this year, which when Tua is your quarterback, for you to make that decision is just weird. But man, they're in a tough spot, and just so unlucky too that those edge rush injuries have stacked up when they have, because they're in such a bad spot. I will refresh. Good reminder, chat. Okay, so the Bills are bringing Deion Dawkins back in an extension that will make him one of the league's highest paid tackles. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. I don't get why they would just release Deion Dawkins. I didn't spend too much time talking about that, and I'm glad I didn't, because it looks like they had a plan there with whatever that news was. But yeah, obviously you don't want to lose your franchise left tackle when you have an elite quarterback in his prime. So that's all I really have to say about that. He's a good player. Really good player. 3 years, $60 million. Seems pretty par for the course to me for him. Any other super chats? Saquon Barkley or Zach Moss for half the price? Dude, give me Saquon at 10 over Zach Moss at 5. Easily. Any day of the week. Because Saquon's not going to cost... I don't think Saquon's going to cost like $15 million, right? So I'm all for a team going to get Saquon. I feel like the running back position is making a bit of a comeback with the run game kind of. Although people may have missed their window to value running back, because a big reason running back became more valuable was because of all of the quarters Fangio style defenses in the league. and 2/3, if not 3/4 of those have been eradicated, and everyone's getting back to single high, cover 1, cover 3 now. So the run game might stall out again. I don't know. It's just the league goes in trends like that. But either way, I think Saquon's a difference-making running back, and you can feel that when he's not on the field for the Giants. Another super chat. You guys are awesome. Bryson coming back. Some years, the top of the draft are pretty cut and dry on who is going where. How do I feel about this one? I think it's a good question. I'm not going to say this is the year that is the most cut and dry, if that makes sense. Like, I think the number 3 pick could go in any direction. But I do feel like it's Caleb, and I'm just not buying the Jaden Daniels Washington stuff. I feel like there's so much crap that comes out about the quarterbacks from these reporters, and it's not that they're making it up. It's just I don't get why. Like, if you're Washington, why the hell would you tell anybody that you like Jaden Daniels? It just wouldn't make any sense. In fact, if you are going to talk to a reporter, it would be beneficial to hide that you're going to take Drake May. So I really struggle with quarterback rumors and who's going to take who and all that. But I just don't buy that you can watch Drake May and watch Jaden Daniels and decide you're going to take Jaden Daniels personally. I just feel like they're in a different cut of quarterback. You guys are awesome with these super chats. I love it. We're going to keep answering these. From Sawyer, what do you think about the Chargers trying to trade Bosa, Mack, Williams, and Allen? Feels like they're trying to rebuild. Thanks for the content. I don't think you trade all of them, but I think they're willing to trade some of them, and they're just going to kind of throw those names out into the ether and see what comes back. I definitely think the edge rushers makes a ton of sense to trade. Bosa is expensive and can't stay healthy. If you're going into a new regime, like, it's just tough to count on that player and kind of make him. I just don't. I think Bosa, you want to throw him into a great defense, and get what you get when he stays healthy. But you don't want to go into the year like, we need Joey Bosa to stay healthy, right? So I totally get just kind of getting him out of there, the gravity that he kind of sucks up, and just being more of a team effort on defense. I know it's kind of a weird, lazy answer to kind of word it that way, but from a roster construction standpoint, I think that's the way to go. I don't think they really want to trade Keenan Allen. I think he's got pretty damn good connection with Herbert, and I don't think they're going to get too crazy of a draft pick for him. Man, the news has been slow, but I'm glad you guys are bringing in some fire questions with the super chats. But I don't think the Chargers are trying to rebuild, but they definitely are cleaning up. They're like, okay, here's a nerdy reference. It's like, I don't know why. I guess it's because I just watched the Fallout trailer that this brought me back to Fallout 4. And I know like 8% of you in the chat will get this reference, but it's like when you get a new settlement and there's trash and dirt everywhere and you got to clean it up. They're kind of doing that. There's just a lot of stuff that is in the way that they need to clear up cap and just playing time too, right? Like they need to clear up playing time for young players. So I still think they'll be competitive, but it might take a year to get where they want to be in the long haul. Jack says, thoughts on Seattle clearing 40 to 45 mil this past week, just trimming fat or looking to make moves, and how do I feel about their QB situation? So, great question. I mean, most of the fat that they trimmed was the safety room, right? Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs that had like huge cap hits. I don't know that necessarily means that they're looking to make moves, because there's all these safeties out there. Like, didn't Quandre Diggs have like a $20-something million cap hit or something crazy? Like, I think they looked at that and were like, we can't pay a safety in this landscape 6 times what he's worth. Like Quandre Diggs is going to get like a $5 million a year contract. If they were going to pay him 23 this year, you just can't really keep that player. No matter what your team strategy is, that's just bad business. And then Jamal Adams had to go, right? So I don't think it necessarily indicates anything. It gives them the freedom to make moves if they'd like. My guess is they're trying to work on a deal with Leonard Williams because they traded a 2nd-round pick. I don't know how you could just let that guy out the building. How do I feel about their QB situation? I think it's Geno this year very clearly. I think if McCarthy falls to them in the draft, they will take him. I don't think they trade up for a quarterback. They obviously might be interested in Michael Penix because of the connection with the coach. So it's going to be something to keep an eye on there. But I think that's more of a, although they don't have their 2nd-round pick, so maybe they trade down and take Michael Penix. I wouldn't hate it. I think Michael Penix could succeed in Seattle for sure. AJ, the Quad Father, Super Chat says, Daniels reminds me of Fields. I don't know what you mean by not a plus on that one. But there's similarities, there's differences. I do have almost an identical grade on Daniels as I did on Fields. But yes, I agree. Like there is a bust aspect of Jaden Daniels in terms of, the seeing the full field. They're differences though. Like Fields held the ball too long and like wouldn't really survey the field. Like Fields would just stare down a first read. Daniels doesn't have that problem. He just doesn't really see the middle of the field all that well, and he doesn't really throw with anticipation. Neither does Fields. I see some similarities there for sure, but I do kind of believe in Daniels a little more than I did Fields coming out. It's close though. I still liked Fields. I was just lower on him than a lot of people. Sad Giants fans, should I expect a 2-win season from my team? No, you should not. Brian Daboll is a better coach than that. Have some faith. NFC is the weaker of the two conferences. Have some faith. It's the new league year started. Technically starts on Wednesday, but it might as well have started 37 minutes ago. It's too early for you to be pessimistic about your Giants, my friend. From Raider Sprayer, Raiders trade up 1 overall and take J5. Trade up to 1 overall. I don't think you have to get to 1 overall. I think you just got to get to 3. But there's obviously a clear connection there, and it would make sense, especially with Russell Wilson going to Pittsburgh. I think the Raiders could be very aggressive, like 3 first-round picks aggressive to go get Jaden Daniels. And I would kind of like him there, I'm not going to lie, because you got Devontae Adams. It's, the connection with Pierce going back to Arizona State. I would kind of like that. From Bryson, any new segments of content this offseason? Not really, my friend. So deep dives take up my entire summer. Like you guys have seen the deep dive series. That is just blood, sweat, and tears all summer to get that thing done. And any time left I have is spent with my wife, with my family, and travel. We are hoping to also potentially get a little Euro trip in there this year, which would be amazing. But no, it's going to be deep dives this summer. That's really all you can probably ever expect from me, is just deep dives over the summer. And I like to think that that's enough. Like we pretty much cover everything full force over the off season there. So Ty has a question about Justin Simmons. We talked a little bit about him earlier. I don't think Simmons will be back. I think he's going to have a market and is probably excited to potentially go somewhere where he could, win a ring and be in a more, I guess, positive environment. I'm not going to say it's a bad culture there in Denver right now, but it certainly isn't the best. So I think with him getting released, it was a farewell wave. I know that's not what you want to hear as a Broncos fan. He's a great player. Let's refresh the feed and see if we have any news. Oh, okay. We got something. All right, Vikings. So I like this a lot. Yesterday on my 32 ideal signings for all 32 teams, we gave Chase Young to the Vikings, but the idea was to get them I would say a B tier edge free agent, which I would categorize Jonathan Grenard as, because it just creates so much flexibility for their offseason. It doesn't change what you've got to do at quarterback. Right? Like they can bring Kirk back and compete. They can not bring Kirk back and use that 12th overall pick on a quarterback. They can trade up to go get a quarterback. And it also doesn't change their ability to draft an edge at 12 if a Dallas Turner or Latu or whoever they like is there. So it made total sense that edge group became bare the second that Danielle Hunter is clearly leaving at this point. But I like that. Grenard's a really good player. He has had some availability concerns in terms of health, but and not even so much that. It's just like so he came into the league as a 4th round pick. Year 1 was kind of whatever. Year 2, he just blew up in the second half of the year, I think, with like double-digit sacks, like 30 pressures in like 6 games. And then year 3, he kind of disappeared again. Year 4, with D'Amico Ryans, he was a really steady number 2 pass rusher opposite of Will Anderson. So he's a natural fit. He's an obvious upgrade from DJ Wanham. And if you got to roll into next year with Brian Flores calling a pass rush for Jonathan Grenard and DJ Wanham with all the blitzes and stuff that, like, Brian Flores is the ultimate weapon. He's why they didn't need to pay Danielle Hunter, because Brian Flores is your pass rush, right? The way he schemes up blitzes and stuff is unbelievable. So I like that signing a lot for the Vikings. I'm gonna imagine the deal is probably 3 years, 38, 40, like something like 12, 13 mil a year for him. Probably the 30 or something they can get out of pretty quickly if he goes back to kind of being the dud that he was last year. But I think he's a good player, really technically sound, and a kind of a perfect signing for the Vikes. So good news there for Minnesota. And here's some more news. Tony Pollard to the Titans. No! There goes all my Tyjae Spears fantasy draft stock. I mean, returns to Tennessee. He's from Memphis. That's cool. They needed another running back. He'll probably be pretty solid there. There's nothing wrong with this signing. But unfortunately, Tyjae Spears' fantasy stock just went into the fucking tank. He's going to get like 8 touches a game, and you can basically just cross off the Titans running back room now from fantasy consideration, because I don't want anything to do with that. Those are 2 similar styled backs. It's not going to be like you go in knowing, okay, this is going to be the week. This is going to be the Derrick Henry week, right? Like they'll use the power back. They'll, be able to run the ball, or they'll go into the week like this is going to be the scat back week, right? Like, no, it's going to be hot hand, just switching drives. Whoever gets the good blocking any given week is going to produce. It's going to be very frustrating from a fantasy perspective, but totally decent signing for the Titans. I can't imagine that's going to be overly expensive. Probably 1 or 2 years, 5-6 mil. But for Tennessee, it doesn't even really matter because I feel like they have so much money to spend. It doesn't really matter. All right, let's do one more refresh and then take a look at Super Chats. Okay. Last Super Chat here. Man, you guys are awesome showing up with these chats. I really appreciate you guys. Goes a long way. We will make sure I answer every single Super Chat here, but Panthers cutting Hurst and Bozeman to save a tiny bit of cap and taking on dead money is interesting. Options for tight end, early third, and interior offensive line option. So Hurst made sense, right? He has had injury issues. He was such a just bad signing from the former regime. Like, they gave him pretty hefty guarantees. I know this because I was the Panthers in my 32-man realism league, which, hey, while I have 1,200 of you guys here, if you're looking for a Madden league, let me drop a little application link for you, because I think we have a couple open spots if you want to come get in a Madden league for me. And next year, they will have cross-gen, so we'll have opportunities for everybody. But anyway, the Hayden Hurst deal had a bunch of just guaranteed money on it and never made sense. Like, they should have been the team that signed Dalton Schultz. Just classic. I mean, there's so much more to it with the Bryce and Stroud stuff, but Stroud's team made a really great signing, value tight end. The Panthers wasted like $24 million on literally someone that offered nothing for them. So that, I mean, you had to cut Hayden Hurst, and then Bozeman was just not good last year. So I'm fine with that. If those guys are going to be liabilities for you, the dead cap is what it is. It's the old, what's the first rule in the game of holes? Stop digging. And keeping those guys on the roster was going to be an issue for them. So any cap space they can clear up to bring in better players is going to be effective for them. Did I just see $19 million a year for Jonathan Grenard? Holy crap. Okay, that is a lot. That is a lot of money. Like, you can't go another $6 million a year to just get Danielle Hunter back? It's interesting. It's a lot of money. I don't know that he can play up to that contract. We'll see. We'll see. He's not the most like physically gifted guy. Like, I think he's capped out as a 2. And for me, a 2, you pay about 12, 13 mil, not 20 mil. So that's a lot. Much more than I thought he would get. But hey, good for Jonathan Grenard. That's fantastic. That's big time. All right. But we had more to that super chat, more to that Panthers question. I gotta find it because the chat has been coming in hot here. Let's see. I thought I can sort just by super chats here for a minute. Here we go. That should work. Okay. Oh yeah, you were asking about options for tight end in the early third round to replace Hurst. I haven't gotten too far into the tight end class, to be honest. I do like the Florida State kid. I really do. I think he's being undervalued. Jaheim Bell. I think he's just a talented receiver. Ran like a 4.62. I think he could step in and be an option for you in the receiving game. I thought Tremble. No, I don't want to count on Tremble, but tight end's tough. I would probably go more try to find like a Noah Fant or Colby Parkinson or something. I think would be a better if you really want a tight end. Otherwise, just kind of treat the position fairly meaningless. Interior offensive line. I mean, I could go on forever, but they have to do something there, right? But it's a deep interior offensive line class. I'll give you that. All right, I got a bunch of super chats. I'm going to kind of go through these a little bit quicker here, just so I don't get too far behind. You guys are awesome, man. Love you guys. But from Iken, from your wide receiver rankings, I find it interesting. You have at least 15 receivers ahead of Jalen Polk. Do you still think he goes day 2? I wouldn't draft Jalen Polk day 2 just because there's so many other guys. I've got him like an early 4, just as things fall into place. I'd probably have him as like a late 3 in a normal draft class. if you haven't figured this out by now, I'm just personally, I'm always a little bit more hesitant on contested catch types of guys. I will say, though, he reminds me a lot of what we saw from rookie year Jatavion Wicks in Green Bay. And if he can be that player, I'm just going to be too low on him. But he also reminds me of, I think it was Ezu Kanma, came out of like Texas Tech, was like a 4th or 5th round pick for the Dolphins, I think. Reminds me a lot of him, where it's like, well, he won a lot of contested catches, but the separation wasn't really there. So I just don't think Polk is that good of an athlete. He's really tough, makes a lot of tough catches, has great hands, he blocks. There's stuff to like about him. Like, I think he's a mid-range wide receiver prospect for sure, and could be a starter in the league, but it's much more about, like, there's just so many receivers I love in this draft class, right? I will admit, though, I have like 4 wide receivers tied for 16th in my rankings, and Polk is one of them, which on Patreon you guys have seen that. So he was right behind that group. From Flambeau, what Packers talking point this offseason will I be annoyed with? Mine is that we need to take an offensive tackle in the first. I don't think we need to take an offensive tackle in the first. But it's certainly an option. I don't think it would be like an annoyance to me. Honestly, I don't head into the year with any real frustrations with the Packers. Joe Barry's gone. I mean, maybe it's Quay Walker, but having to step up as LB1 because they're going to release Devondre Campbell, maybe that's the annoyance, is that they might think Quay Walker is a number 1 linebacker. But if that's your biggest issue, you're in pretty good territory. Is it a hot take to say the NFC North will be the toughest division this year? I don't think so at all. I mean, I think the AFC North is still probably the toughest, and the AFC South's going to be nasty. But, dude, I think the Bears are going to be very competitive next year. I think the Vikings, likewise. I mean, the Packers and Lions were basically NFC championship teams. So certainly not crazy to say the NFC North is going to take a massive leap forward next year. From BMO, who are some good linebackers the Eagles could get? How about Willie Gay? Is like an under-the-radar guy I like. I don't think they'll spend up for like Jonathan Brooks. Maybe they could lure in. Oh, there you have it. David Bakhtiari is being released. That's right on cue with what we were just talking about. So I wasn't sure how this was going to play out. So he's going to sign with the Jets, obviously, which is great for the Jets. No one was going to trade for David Bakhtiari's contract. What's interesting about this, though, is that the Packers basically aren't saving any money by releasing him. They could not have signed David Bakhtiari at a worse time. They signed him to a record-breaking left tackle contract. And like, 3 months later, he had essentially a career-ending injury. Brutal. And everything I've read is that the cleanup work that they did this year, they're optimistic that he can get back. And when he's played since the injury, he's still played well. So it is interesting that Green Bay is just releasing him, because I think there's a world where he comes back healthy and the Jets get a franchise left tackle, not just for Aaron Rodgers for this year, but like, it reminds me so much of Trent Williams, where the Washington team just gave up on him, sent him to the Niners for a 3rd-round pick, and like 5 years later, he's still the best left tackle in the fucking NFL. So it reminds me a little bit of that, but like, I also get it. We'll see where it goes. But that is a domino that has now fallen for Green Bay. So we were just talking about how they could go 1st-round tackle, or Rasheed Walker played pretty well for them last year. They might just roll with him again, but yeah, big domino to fall. Back to the Eagles linebackers, though. The biggest one I can think of is Willie Gay. I think Azeez Al-Shaair was just a 1-year deal in Tennessee, so he's another guy I like. It's just a couple names, but I think with Philly, they went too far in the direction of just ignoring linebackers, right? Jerome Baker's another name I would throw out there for them, but they just systematically ignored linebacker to the point that it became a huge issue for them. I don't think you necessarily need to invest big time in linebacker, and certainly I don't think you draft them first round, but I do think you still want mid-range starters, right? Like you want guys you're paying $4 million that have played the position for a while. Like I think that's kind of where you want to go. So I would imagine that they'll get somebody with some experience there. And the guys they were signing last year was like washed up options, right? Like I liked Cunningham, but clearly he was washed up. They tried to get Shaq Leonard. He's washed up. They were trying to chase talent that clearly wasn't there anymore. So there are options. I just think it's more of a strategic thing for the Eagles where they need to actually spend a little bit of money at that position. What do I think the percentage is that Marv is a Cardinal? I think it's a lot less than most people would tell you. My personal opinion is that Jaden Daniels is not going to be the number 3 pick in the draft. I think it's either going to be Marv to New England or someone else. Obviously, that's just my opinion. If I had to put a percentage on it, 60-40, he's not there. Like, I really think someone's going to want to go get Marv in this draft. So, and maybe the Cardinals just do a little flip with New England, right? Maybe they give an extra pick to be the team that goes get Marv if that's what they want to do. So if that's in play, maybe that boosts it up to like 45% that Marv is a Cardinal. But I'm certainly less optimistic that he'll be there at 4 than a lot of people. From McFarland, Kirk to the Falcons, per the guy who shovels his driveway. It does kind of feel like it's trending that way, but Vikes just spent big on an edge rusher. Does that, I mean, that could mean one of two things. Number one, they think they can compete this year and want Kirk back. Number two is they have money sitting around now that they're not committing that to Kirk Cousins. I don't know. I don't know what to think of that. But I think it's either the Vikings or the Falcons. Flip a coin, really. Daniels' thoughts on my Eagles retiring and getting younger. Do I have thoughts on that? Not really, to be honest. You knew at some point they were going to have to get cheaper and start to bring in some cheaper youth just because Hurts' contract's going to start to add up. But I don't know. We knew Kelsey was going to retire. I don't know that I will continue to reiterate that I am concerned about the long-term sustainability of Jalen Hurts on that contract, but they still have the majority of their core. I liked their coaching changes, which I think was a big issue for them. You get Hurts healthy. There's definitely no reason to panic about the Eagles, but they just have to draft well and continue to develop young players as they do so well. I guess I don't really have any big takes on them, though. Only 42 guaranteed for Grenard. Only 42 guaranteed? That's a lot. That's a lot of guaranteed. That's half the contract guaranteed. More than half. Okay, Micah, great question. Is JJ still your QB6? I wasn't really sure how to announce this, whether it was going to just be sliding in a comment on my QB rankings video or some tweet or an individual video. But I will say right now, JJ McCarthy has now entered QB4A with me. I have the same grade on him as I do on Bo Nix as 4B. So he is past Penix for me. I've caught more JJ McCarthy, honestly. Full disclosure, I hadn't actually watched his national championship performance because I watched it live. And then when I went to go evaluate JJ McCarthy, I didn't watch that game because he only has, 13 dropbacks or something in that game. I was like, why would I watch that game? But I saw some dropbacks that really impressed me in the national championship. Also, the Ohio State game was not something I had watched on him. And I think you saw, now that I'm getting a bigger picture on him and hearing better things about him, I do think as his year went on, he started to throw the ball with a lot more confidence. And he's just warming up to me. I still see a lot of stuff that concerns me in terms of just how raw he still really is. He still has reads that make me shake my head. But or missed reads and that kind of stuff. But I mean, he's 21 years old, right? Like you have to consider that when Jaden Daniels is 24, Bo Nix is 24, Michael Penix is 24. You know, you can't just assume that development comes, but the thought that it could be there is certainly intriguing. And he also had a run in that Michigan game, backed up in his goal line where he breaks up the middle on a scramble and just like breaks running angles of Washington defenders. And I'm like, man, he is a legit athlete. So he's definitely growing on me. Much more comfortable with him in like the top 20. I'm still not quite there as like a surefire top 10 pick. It would have to be a really like no-brainer situation where it's like Mahomes sitting behind Alex Smith for a year or Jordan Love sitting behind Aaron Rodgers. I still want him sitting and learning behind a veteran. But I'm definitely warming up to him. And when we get to my next mock draft, he's not going to be falling into the 20s. I'll say that. Okay, we got a few more super chats, and then we can be all caught up here. From Wolfgang, Jags O-line is one of the highest paid in the league now. I think it's 4 guys making top 10 money plus a first-round rookie. So it's Sheriff. I don't think Cam Robinson makes top 10 money, right? 3 years, $54 million. He's 15.3 average. That's towards the bottom in terms of like left tackle money. I don't think they're the highest paid O-line in the league, especially because it's not like they paid the center that they just got from Buffalo. I can't think of his name. Morse. It's not like they paid him a bunch of money. It was like 3 years or like 2 years, 14 million or something. So no, I don't think the Jags I don't think they're even all that close to the highest paid O-line in the league, to be honest. Probably top 10. Over the Cap says cutting Bach saves $21 million in cap. Is that true? If that's true, then that is a no-brainer. To do that. Now, it's of course, the Spotrac website is slow. Everybody's looking up David Bakhtiari's contract right now. I can't click on that link. There's too much traffic. All right, so releasing him, his base salary. Oh, yeah, he did. He had a $20 million base salary. So, yeah, that does save a lot. And he was set to be a free agent next year, so he's 33 years old. It actually makes more sense than I even thought. But look, I'm excited for him to go to the Jets. Like, we know that's going to happen. We might get that news as early as like this afternoon. But I'm excited for him and Rodgers to be reunited, and I hope he can get healthy and stay healthy. And he's such a fun player. He's one of the most, if not the most technically refined pass protectors you'll ever watch. Like if you want to know what is a pass protecting left tackle supposed to do from a technique standpoint, just load up some David Bakhtiari film from like 2019, 2018. Tyler says, with Pollard in Tennessee, what about Zach Moss to Cleveland? Yeah, sure. I think any sort of cheaper running back option, more proven than Jerome Ford, is going to be a good move for them. Ford had some breakaway runs that are fun, but he just is he's not a guy that consistently gets you what's blocked up. And I think Moss would get them that. So I'd be down. All right, that is, I believe, all of these super chats. We should be all caught up. Back to the main chat here. Let's see if there's any news. A 3-year deal for Drew Sample. Probably nothing expensive there. He's their blocking specialist. I don't think that stops them from doing other things at tight end. But definitely a tight end too that they like. So I don't really have too much to say on that one. Let's continue to get caught up on some contract or some other news here that I haven't discussed yet. I ended up closing that tab, so let me find it again. My goal here is to, I think, stay live until we catch up on all of our super chats, all of the news, and 2 hours in, if that makes sense. If we get 2 hours into this and I have addressed every transaction that we need to that has happened over the last week or so and are all caught up with the news and the super chats, I think that will probably be it. News has definitely been slower out the gate here. I will almost certainly be having a reactions podcast to either all of the free agent signings or the ones that I didn't cover on a live stream, depending how much time I have. But I will almost certainly be doing that on the podcast later this week, probably on Thursday. My wife Anna and I are going to be taking a trip to Mexico. One last little breather. Speaking of which, Lisa B in the chat, what's up? But yeah, I will probably do one more podcast here before we head out for a little vacation, a little mental relaxation time before we really get into the last month push of draft season. But there's the link for the podcast right there that I'm dropping. If you don't follow the Fully Inflated Football Podcast, you can also search Fully Inflated wherever you get your audio shows. But let me see if I can get back to that transactions page here. Wanted to go back to the last thing we talked about. There's a lot of smaller stuff on this list that I don't feel the need to talk about. Now it's struggling to load. What do I think from Gabe? Super chat. Thank you, Gabe. The fit between Russ and Arthur Smith. That is definitely a fascinating one, right? Like, I get the Steelers Russ fit, but the Arthur Smith Russ fit is an interesting one. Because hitting those intermediate digs and crossing routes is going to be a big part of Arthur Smith's offense. Play action, get your head around, hit those intermediate digs. And Arthur Smith is a guy that I'm just going to say he beats to his own drum, right? I'll just leave it at that. I think you guys know exactly what I'm talking about, especially if you play fantasy football. But that is something where I see the contract, 1 year, $1.2 million. I think Russ could have a short leash with Arthur Smith, where if they're getting into the film room and Arthur's like, dude, I can't do this any better for you. I set this up 3 drives ago. This is a perfect play action. There's an in-breaking dig. This is Deontay Johnson 60 yards to the house if you hit this. Or maybe not 60 yards to the house, but like huge play. And if Russ is passing up those throws, I don't think it's guaranteed that Russ plays all year long, right? He has played in a similar style system under Shane Waldron in Seattle. And it had mixed results, but he was efficient at a point in time. So I'm not saying he can't play in that offense, but I'm also not saying he's going to hold on to that job all year because Kenny Pickett will be there, and I don't think there's a massive gap between Russ and Kenny Pickett. So if Arthur Smith thinks Kenny can run his offense better, there's no reason for him to keep playing Russ. It's not like they paid him a bunch of money, right? Caleb says, Schefter said, every team is waiting to see what Kirk does. He dictates the market. I mean, that's certainly true. No other news to really report here, but let's see if my transactions have loaded. They have. There's March 8th. Okay. Here we go. So I didn't even, this is a good exercise to do because I didn't even see all these. I didn't realize that Chukwuma Okorafor signed with New England on a 1-year, $4 million contract. It's a nice little adequate low-end starter for the Patriots to have an answer at tackle. Like, I like that. Not spending too much. Makes total sense. It's actually like kind of a little A+ signing there, just for what it is. 1-year, $4 million for someone to play at tackle for them because Brown's gone and Onwenu's gone. Love that. Kevin Dotson got his extension. Just shout out Kevin Dotson. What a move for the Rams to go bring him in at guard. He was so good. I was tweeting clips about him through the season. Like, he was just someone that popped in that system. Finally kind of emerged as a great run blocker in that system for the Rams because they let him kind of get on the move a little bit and find guys in space, whereas the Steelers was just such a stagnant head-up blocking scheme. We got to kind of see Kevin Dotson a little bit more there. Drew Tranquill signed an extension in Kansas City, 3 years, $19 million. I get it. He played well last year. Spags can trust him. Spags calls so many different things. So he's a guy that he can trust to make sure everything's lined up pre-snap, to not blow assignments. It's a totally fine signing. But, God, I just want Leo Chanel to be free, man. And I thought it was going to happen. I thought Tranquill was going to leave. I thought Willie Gay was going to leave. And they were going to let Leo Chanel cook. Doesn't seem to be the case. So that was a little frustrating as a big Leo Chanel fan, but I get it for the Chiefs. But also for the Chiefs who, like I am not going to question the Chiefs front office. I think they're doing this as good as anybody in the league right now. But that's $6.5 million a year that could be spent on a Darnell Mooney or a wide receiver. I feel like that's a bigger hole for them. When you have a guy like Leo Chanel and Bolton, do I really want to spend $6.5 million on a linebacker? Not really. So I wouldn't have re-signed him, but I'm also not going to question. I'm not going to question the Chiefs front office either. Then we've got Hunter Henry. We mentioned at the very top of the show, but good for New England to bring him back. He just is a natural fit for them. They didn't want to lose their entire offense, so that works for me. Let's see. Scrolling through. Justin Madubuike extended. Well worth it. Breakout year. I don't really see why he would slow down. He was a guy that early on in the year, he was putting up crazy numbers, and I saw Baltimore running all these games, all these stunts, getting these kind of like free rushers and blitzes. And Madubuike got some of those sacks off of that. But as the year went on, you really started to see how he's refined his pass rushing tool belt with his quickness, with his power. Really no reason to believe that Madubuike can't live up to that contract and honestly even continue to get better. He is got to be, 25 years old? Like, he was young coming into the league. 26 years old. So, like, he really could just continue to get better. So I thought that was kind of a no-brainer for Baltimore. And they kind of snuck that in right before Chris Jones's deal came in. It makes it look a little bit better. $24 million for Madubuike looks a little bit better, knowing Chris Jones just matched the Aaron Donald contract. That was going to be a big question for those that really want to get into like cap strategy and contract strategy. Sorry, let me put the Twitter back up here. But okay, I got to talk about some big news here. So let me finish my train of thought here, and then we'll talk about some signings that just came in. And then Rambo will get to your super chat. But the Aaron Donald contract was an outlier in the defensive tackle market because he was an outlier player, right? Aaron Donald was like the best player in football for like 7 years straight. So he was like $7 million ahead of the D tackle market. We weren't sure if these new guys up for contracts were ever going to get that big jump up to Aaron Donald money. Chris Jones played this well and got that. So now when like Jeffrey Simmons got his, Quinnen Williams got his, but like, I mean, we'll keep an eye. We'll see what Christian Wilkins looks like with Chris Jones's deal. I wouldn't be surprised if Wilkins' deal is now more than Madubuike, right? Is kind of what I'm saying. That's going to drag these new D tackle signings up in a way that the Ravens didn't have to deal with that because Chris Jones hadn't signed yet, if you were able to follow that. But anyway, we've got some news here. Dude, where's the bell? Where's the bell? Hold on. We need the bell. I said I was going to ring the bell. Any of my ideal signings that happened on this stream, and we got one. Lloyd Cushenberry to the Titans. A ring the bell moment for the channel. This was literally my ideal landing spot that I recorded yesterday. You've got the new offense coming in with the Callahan. The Callahan family is coming in. Bill and Brian. Brian, the head coach. Bill is the offensive line coach and Brian Callahan's dad. So Titans have desperate needs at offensive line. They've been playing Aaron Brewer at center, who is 280 pounds, soaking wet. Like he looks like a Navy, like an offensive lineman that'd be playing for Navy or Army in those games. They've been playing him. And so they needed a center, but Cushenberry is such a great fit because they're gonna want to be gap, duo, inside zone, shotgun running. Cushenberry is a really just physical mauler in the trenches. He's a fully built center. There's two types of really scheme fits for centers. You've got these sub 300 pound move guys for the wide zone blocking schemes. And then you've got your kind of like inside, 320 pound guys. There's not really a middle ground there. As you'll find, most centers are either 305 pounds or the 320 pounds is kind of the archetype in the league. And Cushenberry, I think, plays around 320. But just a perfect fit, man. And he's an experienced guy. He's been starting for 4 years. And for Bill Callahan to have a veteran center that is great for his scheme to kind of coach around and build around and kind of have like his Robin in that group is huge for them. So this is a plus, literally ideal signing for the Titans. So that was fantastic. And then all right, you guys, it's time. What the fuck are the Broncos doing? I'm sorry, Broncos fans. I'm officially confused. Really? Number one, Brandon Jones is not a good football player. I've watched plenty of Brandon Jones. I never understood when they were playing him early in his career over better safeties that they had in that building. He can tackle, but he's a box safety that doesn't have great size. He doesn't have a lot of speed. He doesn't cover well. So for them to basically release Justin Simmons, acknowledging, okay, the safeties are overpaid, we can go get a budget safety, blah, blah, blah. And then the second free agency starts, they fucking rush to the table to pay Brandon Jones $7 million. I'm officially just lost on what the Broncos are doing. So, okay. Don't get that one at all. Weird. And then Gabe Davis to the Jags. I'll give him a chance. I will give him a chance. I agree with the Jags letting Ridley go. We'll see what Gabe Davis... I more need to see the price tag here. It's expected to be a 3-year deal. So we'll see. I'm going to wait to see the price tag on Gabe Davis. Also, Broshmo, thank you for the super chats there. I will consider purchasing a new cowbell from you. Rambo, I never got to your super chat there. Should the Raiders pay Jacobs? If not, can Zamir White be the replacement? Also, shout out Gruden for Andre James. Yes, I questioned Andre James. I did. And Gruden was right about that one. But should they... I would bring... Depends what the price tag is, right? For me, Josh Jacobs fits... I was going through this for my podcast prep yesterday. I had 3 teams in mind for Josh Jacobs. One was the Raiders, which I would definitely consider bringing him back. I thought he showed enough at the end of last season that there's still that good player in there. The other one was the Chargers that I thought about. Just with... Obviously, they're going to want to run the ball more. Interdivision signing, would like that. And then... The Ravens was the other one that I had there, but I would consider bringing him back because they're going to want to run the ball. I like Jacobs and Zamir White as a complementary duo. Not even complementary. It's just like those are 2 good backs that can smash the ball between the trenches, and then you can focus on, the rest of the offense. But can Zamir White be the guy? I think he could. I think you probably bring someone else in to kind of make it like a frustrating fantasy football type of decision. But, Zamir White was solid. He was efficient, but not terribly explosive. Like, gave him a lot of carries. He held up. He showed good vision, good toughness. But I don't think you're like, oh yeah, Zamir White's going to break out as a superstar either. You know what I'm saying? But I think they could very well just be like, yeah, we'll save money and go with Zamir White. I think it'd be totally fine if they did that. Thoughts on Dorrance Armstrong to the Commanders? Did that happen? Or is that speculation? Okay. Here we go. Let me get back to you, Connor. Ayo, there's your splash. Wow. Okay. First of all, slight ring of the bell. This one's gonna be a little more quiet. I'm not gonna do this every time, but a lot of people said my projection for Christian Wilkins' contract was too much. I think I had it right on the money there. Let me pull up my podcast notes here for a second because I had. Let me see. Now, I had him going to the Giants, so I was wrong, but I love him going to the Raiders. But I'm curious, I just for my own sanity, I had it 4 for 105, so even more than that. But, I mean, dude, how do you not love this for the Raiders? I don't even really have any like big takes about it. It's just Christian Wilkins is one of maybe the only players in this free agency class where it's like that guy should not hit the market. Like we saw Broshmo in here earlier in the super chat saying, like, I'm so sick of my Dolphins letting guys hit the market that shouldn't be hitting the market. And this was that player. Like this was the guy because they traded for Jalen Ramsey, because they traded for Bradley Chubb, they lost this player. He should have been a no-brainer. Extend the guy, lock him up. And I mean, really, he is an elite run defending defensive tackle. He is, or arguably, other than Aaron Donald, the strongest pound for pound defensive tackle in the league. He plays at like 310, I think, but he does not get moved. You would think he's like tied to the ground beneath him. His arms are just dynamite. His hands, like he'll stick guys, he can stack and shed as good as anybody in the league. And if you try to run at him, he's going nowhere. And you're not getting past him either. He's technically sound, he's strong, he's a great leader, all of it. And the Raiders have been missing this guy. They have not had him. And to get him now next to Max Crosby, that D-line is starting to build something there. Like, this is a defense you can start to get, honestly, a little more excited about for the Raiders. As a pass rusher, he's good. The fact that you have Max Crosby, you're hoping that you can maybe get a leap forward next year from Tyree Wilson. You know, you've got Malcolm Kuntz started to break out last year. Like, you don't need Wilkins to be an alpha number one rusher. He's going to get you 35, 40, 45 pressures, 6-7 sacks. That's kind of who he is. He's not the most athletic pass rushing defensive tackle, but he's good enough there that you look at what he does on early downs to, I mean, basically force, like, he's going to help you force the offense into 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 9s, because their run game's not going to be good. And then you let Max Crosby go to work. So, I mean, just beautiful, unbelievable that the Raiders were able to land that player. So, love that for them. But Connor, I haven't seen anything from your super chat about Dorrance going to the Commanders, but of course that makes sense, right? He's been a productive player as a rotational piece for Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn goes to the Commanders. Would make sense that he would follow him over there. Seems like a no-brainer to me. They also don't have any edge rushers, so I'm game. Would be a good signing. And then Easton says, I'm panicking right now as a Cardinals fan. I don't think you need to panic yet. You still got options out there. And also, you guys had the perfect season for the Cardinals. You guys are heading in the right direction. You don't need to, like, go crazy in free agency. But there's still plenty of time. We have barely had any dominoes fall. So you don't panic yet. I do want the Cardinals to sign somebody, one or two good players at premium positions, but I don't think you need to panic quite yet, Easton. I'll talk you off the ledge for now. We got a super chat here. I'm just going to say that name is Most. Love the name, though. Random question, but what are your thoughts on the Bengals trading up with New Orleans to jump Indy/Seattle for Bowers if he's there? As a closet Bengals fan, I love it. I do like Bowers as a fit. As just a playmaking entity for the Bengals. I'd be game if they did it. I would be all on board. And I think it's reasonable too. Like, I think Bowers is probably going to slip out of the top 10 just because of the position he plays, but I think it's a good kind of take/prediction there for sure. All right. This is fun, guys. This is fun. 85 guarantees. Good on you, Christian Wilkins. All right. Let's continue to catch up on some of the contracts from recent days that I want to get my takes on. Last we talked about Justin Madubuike, but Jerry Jeudy traded to the Cleveland Browns is something I haven't talked about yet. So it just kind of made sense for Cleveland, right? This is like identical to what they did for Amari Cooper. Now, Jeudy is not as good as Amari Cooper, but I love that process where they're like, we're going to jump ahead of the free agent market, a cheap trade for a good number 2 wide receiver. Like, obviously Jeudy hasn't lived up to his draft pedigree as a top, what did he go, like 12th overall or something like that to the Broncos? Maybe even higher than that. But he obviously hasn't lived up to that. His size has been an issue. He's kind of the archetype for a lot of these undersized receivers where it's like, can they ever get over the hump of being an explosive route runner and being a dominant go-to part of the offense? It's kind of just where Jerry Jeudy's been held up. But when you have Amari Cooper opposite of that dude and you got David Njoku, it's a no-brainer for Cleveland, right? Now it's another guy it's just adding another player that's going to have to be paid. Like Cleveland is very much in on this window this year. They are going to start losing players in Cleveland. It's just going to start happening. But for this year, it's like you are putting it all on Deshaun Watson to show the F up, right? Like, no excuses for Deshaun Watson. It's going to be really sad if he can't really take them far, because that's as good of a roster as it comes in the league. So I hate to do this to you guys, but I have not run an ad yet. I'm going to just do a quick ad. They give you the option when you go live to have like auto ads, which I'm like, all right, if I'm going to be sitting here talking for 2 hours, I don't want to like have everybody miss my segments because you just randomly put an ad in there. So I'm going to run an ad real quick, have a sip of coffee, and we will get back to these super chats. And I also don't know if you guys can like see me right now because like nothing shows an ad on my screen, but I'm hoping you're looking at an ad right now. And this isn't just an awkward pause, but it probably is. Anyway. I'm going to start talking now, I guess. I wish there was I wish it like showed me the ad so that I know you're seeing it. I don't know. I guess sign up at Underdog using promo code TFG if you need another ad if you're not getting one. But anyway, premium members can see me. Well, me and the premium members just had a really awkward moment. So that was funny. But we got a couple more super chats here from Tyler. Would I like DJ Reader to Cleveland? 100%, man. I mean, I like DJ Reader anywhere. Insert DJ Reader. Yes, like it. I'm a huge DJ Reader fan. Availability, age have started to creep up as a question mark for him, but he is a top 3 to 5 nose tackle in the peak of his powers. So, I mean, they have Dalvin Tomlinson. He took a step back against the run last year. You can kind of slide him out to 3 tech. DJ Reader. Yeah, I mean, I would have no complaints if Cleveland found a way to get DJ Reader in there for a year or two. From Austin, good to see you, dude. Of course, longtime viewer. Austin, always recognize you. Thanks for stopping in. Thanks for the super chat. Alex, you too. Do I think Sutton to Baltimore is a possibility? I'm assuming you're talking about Cortland Sutton. I mean, it seems like everybody's for sale in Denver. And Cortland Sutton, I think, put out a little shady tweet like, I'm not happy here. So I love that as a fit. I mean, he's the perfect complement to Zay Flowers and Bateman. If Bateman's going to get another crack at this as that kind of, you know, him and Zay moving in and out of the slot, Cortland Sutton as your big bodied guy, like, I love that as a fit. So if the Ravens are looking for someone to target, I think it'd be a great move. Like you have opened my mind to that as a really fun possibility, especially because the Bengals aren't trading T. Higgins to you interdivision, right? Yeah, I like that if he is available. What are Higgins and Ayuk's trade value? Is pick 33 enough? I do think for the Panthers, pick 33 gets you really close. At least for Higgins. I think Higgins getting traded is much more realistic than Ayuk. I just think the Niners feel like they are so freaking close. They already bit the bullet on letting one of their key players go in Armstead. I don't think they want to bite another bullet and let Ayuk go. I think the Niners are like, look, if we have to lose Ayuk after this year for nothing, so be it. But I think it would kill Kyle Shanahan to be this close and to let Ayuk go. So I don't see the Niners trading Ayuk, and I definitely don't see them trading it for pick 33. If, I don't know, some team with a top 12 pick came in and like gave them a price they couldn't say no to, probably. But I do think pick 33 gets Carolina pretty close, and is a realistic potential landing spot there. And I would obviously love that, to use that pick for T. Higgins if you are the Panthers, for Bryce. Cole says, what is Jeremy Chinn's trade value to the Colts? Jeremy Chinn's a free agent. You can go sign him right now if you want. Jeremy Chinn, I will say that, so I like Jeremy Chinn. I think he's a fun player. Box safety, slot corner, kind of played the Kyle Hamilton role quietly before Kyle Hamilton got to the league, did it really good for a little bit, and then they just stopped using him all of a sudden. I don't want to say I called him overrated early in his career, but I definitely didn't jump on the like Jeremy Chinn as the next, at the time, like Derwin James, Jamal Adams hype train that he had. Like, he had a big defensive rookie of the year hype train. He's a good, fun player at a position that I have come to discover that I think with fullbacks dying off, the playmaking strong safety has become a fan favorite, when in reality, it's something a lot of players can do. Just kind of, like and this is where I'll come off as a hater, but like the Talanoa Hufangas of the world, the Kyle Hamiltons of the world, what Jeremy Chinn was doing. Like, if you put an athletic strong safety in that part of the field and say, be aggressive on screens, we're going to blitz you, like, man up running backs, like, it's fun plays, it's highlight plays. Like, that safety's highlight reel is going to look a lot better than even like a Minka Fitzpatrick or Jesse Bates, who are just playing the post all day. But it has become an overrated thing, I think, by fans a little bit. Not to say those aren't good players, and there's a reason to get excited about those types of plays, but it's just something I've noticed, is that it's kind of the new fullback, in that it's a fan favorite thing. Anyway, I'll get off that tangent. From Purpose, how do I like the Titans front office? It's still too early to tell, but the Lloyd Cushenberry signing is a huge sign of the right direction. I liked their draft a lot last year, so it's Ron Carthon, right, is the GM there, Purpose. So everything seems to be heading in the right direction for Tennessee. Do I think the Patriots have made good moves up to this point? Yeah, I do. I mean, my take on the Patriots has been I'm not spending a ton of money. I'm going to kind of let things fall into place, but I'm not going to push anything. I'm not drafting a quarterback at 3, playing for next year. I think the Hunter Henry signing was totally fine. Like, keeping that piece, decent run blocker, decent tight end, wasn't overly expensive. It's not like you have any other options there. Like, I think that was good. I like the Chooks signing. He's a starting tackle. Like, underrated, get in there before free agency so it doesn't impact your comp pick formula, if they even have guys that are going to get them comp picks. You would think they probably will, with Onwenu and maybe Trent Brown. So, like, I like just kind of waiting, getting some comp picks. And I think so far so good, but there's a lot of time. Like, I just don't like the idea of the Patriots spending all this cap space, putting a rookie quarterback in a bad situation, and then just getting their ass kicked in the AFC and winning 5 games. Like, I just don't see what the hell is the point of any of that. Did the Chiefs overpay Jones? Should they pay Snead? I don't think they paid Jones. Straight up, no. He's unreal. And what he does in the playoffs, especially, like, he just turns it on in the playoffs, dude. He just does. He's done that multiple years now. And he's the type of player I could buy that, okay, maybe on that 3rd and 6 against the Raiders in a meaningless game, he might take a playoff, or he might not dive after that sack, or he might not, put himself in a compromising situation. Or he might, hop over that falling offensive lineman instead of fighting through that block to make a tackle. But when he's on the Chiefs, he can kind of save his body, stay healthy, and then when the playoffs come around, turn the F up. I would pay Chris Jones whatever it is within reason to pay him, and I think resetting the D tackle market is within reason, especially with the cap going up. And then Snead, I'm comfortable keeping Snead, but I also feel like they have so much depth in the secondary. They have such a good formula for finding those guys that if someone's calling you, willing to give you a 1st-round pick for Snead, I would do that and then open up. I would want to add some pieces to the offense, right? I think the Chiefs' defense can be still excellent without Snead next year. But I also understand keeping him. But it does feel like if you're keeping both of those players, you're kind of locked into not adding anybody else in free agency. The one move that I think for the Chiefs I probably wouldn't have made would have been the Drew Tranquill re-signing. All right, we've got a refresh. Here we go. All right. 3-year, $39 million deal that includes $11 million at signing. Okay. That is actually a very good deal for Gabe Davis. When I first saw that come in, I was like, give me a minute. I need to see what the details are there. If this was going to be something close to $20 million a year with a bunch of guarantees, I would have been worried. But I'm still not ready to quit Gabe Davis. The one thing about this, though, is he has almost identical frustrations to Jerry Jeudy, where there's so many times where he's almost connecting on a deep pass with Josh Allen. He is the role that they needed to fill, though, with Jeudy leaving. You've got your slot, right, in Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram. You have Zay Jones is a decent enough wide receiver 4 that can do a little bit of everything for you. They did need their kind of vertical threat on the outside. I really don't think this is anything to be worried about for the Jags. Is he going to blow up and be dominant or anything? No, I think he'll be what he was for the Bills. But only $10 million or $11 million in guarantees, that to me says this is like the Marquez Valdez-Scantling contract where they could probably get out of it after a year if they really want to. $11 million in guaranteed is very little for Gabe Davis. So I think that's what was I saying? I meant Ridley. Who was I saying? Jeudy? Yeah, dude, Jeudy and Ridley are the same player. Jeudy is just Ridley turned down 5%. Both Alabama receivers. All right, some super chats. How would you handle the Panthers linebacker situation? You want my honest answer? I don't give a fuck. Not saying that in a way that I'm dissing your question. I'm saying if I'm running the team, linebacker is the absolute least of my worries. I'm just Evero, here's the pieces you have. Go do your thing. I like you, Evero. We kept you for a reason. Do your thing this year. You get nothing because the offense is all that matters this year. I'm not signing any linebackers. I'm not drafting any linebackers. I mean, sure, you want to draft a 6th round project for Evero to work with over the years. Great, get him some playing time, draft an athlete. But that is literally the absolute least of my concerns. And I'm definitely, I know Peyton Wilson is close to home, NC State, but there is no world in any galaxy that I am spending a second, third, or fourth round pick on a linebacker if I'm Carolina. It is receivers and offensive line and tight ends, and that is it. Probably even into the fifth round. So not to come off aggressive at you, it's a good question. But my answer is I just don't give a fuck about linebacker if I'm Carolina right now. Another question is from Wes. Yeah, we just dove deep into Chris Jones. So yes, I was well aware of the Jones extension. Cool. We, I think, are all caught up on super chats. Let's do a refresh on Twitter. This stream has been unbelievable, you guys. So, we are at 2,400 concurrent viewers. I am in awe of that. If this is any indication of how the draft stream is going to go this year, I am extremely excited. I've got my internet issues fixed this year. You guys remember that this time last year, I couldn't stream without it randomly cutting out, and it was like I couldn't find the issue for like 2 years. It was the biggest what is it, monkey on my back? Is that the saying? Or just rock in my shoe that I've had since I've been a YouTuber. I could not find out the issue. The problem was the internet card, and I'm not a tech guy, but the network card, the Intel network card that was on my PC was faulty. And it couldn't handle, it would just literally randomly just like run out of juice. So I had to get a new network card installed on my PC, and there we go. We were all fixed. So that is a huge boost to the channel morale. To not have these streams dying, because we'd have these hype streams, 2,200 people, and then flick of a network card, everybody's gone. I had to relaunch the stream. It was so damn frustrating. So it's good to be here. Couldn't tell by the smile on my face. We might even go past the 2-hour mark, which was kind of my goal for the stream. But let's continue to get caught up on the transactions that I have not talked about to this point. I think we're getting closer. No new signings. We also got a super chat from Killset. Do I think the Saints move Marshawn Lattimore? I don't think they want to, but that's another situation where they're like, well, if we can get a late second or like a third and a future pick, maybe. I mean, he's had a hard time staying healthy. I mean, are they even over the or back under the cap yet in New Orleans? I don't think they are. Like, I know they moved around Davis's contract. We just take it for granted that the Saints are going to be able to get out of these cap situations, but I mean, at some point it's like a game of Tetris. Like you keep moving blocks around, you keep deleting stuff, you keep tweaking, but eventually that thing's going to fill up. So like if they're running out of stuff, they might have to rip out one of those bricks, being Lattimore. So I don't know. I think it's on the table for sure. Braden also, thank you for the super chat. But let's go back in time to previous transactions. The last one we talked about was Madubuike, I believe. No, we talked about Jerry Jeudy, which was March 9th. Man, Desmond King back in Houston for 1.8. It's a nice deal. We talked about Chris Jones. Mac Jones to Jacksonville. Some people, Miguel, what's up? Good to see you, my friend. We remember Miguel from draft streams. Alex as well, another super chat. Are the Eagles going to part ways with Sweat and or Reddick? Who would go after them? I did see that both of them are kind of in trade conversations. I would think if they were going to trade anybody, it would probably be Reddick, because they drafted the Reddick replacement last year. Nolan Smith barely played last year. Kind of a seamless transition there. I would think you don't trade Sweat and then leave you with 235-pound edge rushers on the team. That doesn't seem ideal to me. That's at least how I would handle it. But back to Mac Jones for a second. Some people wanted my opinions on that. I mean, he's a backup quarterback at this point, right? He has entered the Baker Mayfield, the Sam Darnold trajectory where it's like, if he's going to ever play again, he's going to have to go somewhere as a backup, find an opportunity somehow via injury or whatever, and earn his way back up. So I get why New England just kind of was done with him. They get a 6th-round pick for him, and Jacksonville sees him as a backup, a cheap backup. The move made sense to me. Alex says the Panthers O-line was so bad at blocking, 4 tombstones would have been an upgrade. Yeah, the Panthers need offensive help. Defense stuff can wait. Exactly. That's exactly the boat I'm in. Bro, Amin Gaming says, who do I want Seattle to chase in free agency? The guy I talked about for him on the Fully Inflated Football podcast yesterday was Michael Nwenu. Someone with guard tackle flexibility. He would be a guard for you. You've got Michigan connections with, they're a Michigan program now with McDonald coming in. And I love that signing because I don't think you need a tackle, but Lucas has some growing health concerns. So if he goes down, then, you've got someone that can step in and play right tackle in a pinch. So he'd be a big target of mine. I also think there'll be a big Patrick Queen team just with the scheme familiarity for McDonald. But I'd be very worried about that contract because Terrell or Tremaine Edmonds got 18 average last year. Very similar profile to Patrick Queen. I'd be worried. Like if I'm Seattle, I want Patrick Queen, but I want Patrick Queen at 12 a year. I don't want him at $20 million a year. That's pretty crazy. So there's a couple names for you. I would really be focused on O-line if I'm Seattle, and interior D-line if you let, how about DJ Reader? I would be totally fine if they let Leonard Williams go, but use that money on DJ Reader instead. I think that because you are a little skinny on your interior D-line, right? You already have Draymond Jones. Him and Leonard Williams are both like under 300 pounds. So go get a big dude like DJ Reader would be fun. Echo is excited that Pittman is extended. Agreed. It had to happen. They extended Zaire Franklin. Good call. Yeah, good extensions for the Colts. The Colts, I tweeted this a couple months ago, they quietly had a lot of guys becoming free agents. And you got to take care of your own when you hit on players. Way too many Drew Sample updates on my timeline. Like, I get that it's been a quiet day, but every 5 tweets have been about Drew Sample. He signed a 3-year deal worth about $2 a year as a tight end too. Like, that was a transaction that probably was meant to happen yesterday that happened today. Yesterday and the day before were a lot of these like cheap re-signings, on role players. But Tyler Biadasz will be signing with the Commanders. I had them signing going O-line was like a focus of mine when I talked about them yesterday. So I like that. Biadasz is fine. Starting caliber center, nothing crazy, but you got to get some pieces on that offensive line. So good signing. As you guys know, basically, if your team signs a starting offensive lineman in free agency, you're going to get a thumbs up from me because there's only so many starters that hit the market. Biadasz is one of them. And just go pay him what you got to pay him to bring him in when you need O-lineman. It's very self-explanatory when it comes to O-line. But yeah, let's continue to reflect backwards a little bit. We're getting very close to caught up to date. Isaiah Oliver signed with the Jets. That's a sneaky little good move for them. As a CB4, he can play slot and outside. I like that for Oliver. Could even play a little safety for them if need be. The Texans signed Falorenzo Fatukasi. I didn't see that. That's a no-brainer, 1-year deal. There's some scheme. There's some schematic nepotism there, I guess you would call that. Fatukasi played under Robert Saleh for the Jets when he was good, and DeMeco Ryans runs that same scheme. So there's some reason to believe he could be better. So I like that signing for Houston. Kevin Byard, 2 years to the Chicago Bears. Very much they released Eddie Jackson, I think saved some cap there. I think Byard's a slight upgrade from Eddie Jackson, but Byard really did underwhelm me in Philadelphia. I thought he would be really good in Philly. Really wasn't the case. He was basically just a run and chase safety. He was not making any plays in coverage. Not that it's a bad signing. I think 2 years, $15 million for Kevin Byard is a totally reasonable deal. But kind of just a push with Eddie Jackson, in my opinion, at this point in his career. Andre James was extended in Las Vegas. Great work. That happened yesterday. I missed that, actually. So great work to get him back. He's a good player. Baker Mayfield brought back in Tampa on like the exact deal we thought was going to happen. I like how Tampa kind of they played their cards right on this. They knew they didn't want to lock into Baker forever. This is basically a 2-year contract, just like the Geno Smith deal. It's a 2-year contract essentially with a team option. The team option isn't written in there, but that last year is like they can cut him for nothing if he goes back to being poor, or if they draft his replacement, which I think if you're Tampa, they're not going to stop looking for quarterbacks. Just like I don't think Seattle has stopped looking at quarterbacks. I think Seattle was sending all their scouts out to all these top quarterbacks games throughout the year in college. So it's literally the Geno Smith situation, and you knew Tampa was gonna get that deal done, and I'm glad they didn't like overpay Baker. If they got kind of swindled by the fact that he was the former number, like that was the one difference between him and Geno, is Baker was the former number 1 overall pick, and Geno, was a 2nd round pick that had never really shown anything. Little difference in terms of like where they had come from. So I was a little bit worried maybe that Tampa was going to like be convinced that Baker was their franchise and give him maybe the Daniel Jones contract a little bit more, where it's like 40, 45 mil. No, it was a good deal for Tampa. And then the Packers are going to release Devondre Campbell. It makes sense. Save a little bit of money there. I am a believer in this. Does get me excited for one of my guys from 3 years ago that was part of my frustration with the Quay Walker pick is Isaiah McDuffie. I think is a really athletic linebacker that kind of fits the mold of what I talk about with linebackers, and kind of how you want to approach that position is get draft and develop pieces that are athletic dudes that love to hit, smart humans that just need to learn the position. Isaiah McDuffie felt like that for the Packers. He's played well when he's been on the field, so I would be actually excited if they view him as a starter and they're ready to kind of move on from Campbell and plug in McDuffie. Who they're not going to really be running base 4-3, but as a weak side backer, when they want to go base 4-3, I think McDuffie could be that player. But honestly, the weak side linebacker is kind of dead. Usually those are just, if anybody really wants to run base 4-3, you're talking about like, the Keanu Neals of the world and the J-Ron Curses of the world, the guy that Dallas was playing at linebacker, guys that are safeties. We saw it in Indianapolis with the former Jags Browns safety from Alabama. Help me out, chat. Oh, this is going to drive me crazy. Oh, I can just picture him. This is hurting me right now. And this is extremely irrelevant. And I know most of you don't care, but I need to get this guy's name. Let's see if I go to the Colts depth chart, if it shows up. Harrison, yes, that's who it is. Thank you, chat. He must be Ronnie Harrison. He's a pending free agent. But yeah, Ronnie Harrison was a linebacker for the Colts, right? Like that was their weak side linebacker. But anyway, we went way off the rails on that one. Let's get back on track with some signings here. You guys know my eyes just gravitated. Colby Parkinson to the Rams. You guys. Colby Parkinson got paid. I'm so happy. Okay, Colby Parkinson is a TFG lore player. Like, this is almost a ring the bell moment. Just because I'm not crazy. The league sees Colby Parkinson as a potential starter. All right, and I hinted in the Rams Studs and Duds episode that Tyler Higbee has really been regressing and could be someone they look to release. So keep an eye out for a Tyler Higbee release. Wow, I love that fit with the Rams offense. I'm excited for Parkinson. He's a guy that has put on a bunch of weight in a good way. Like, he came into the league as like this 6'7", 240-pound, kind of lanky slot receiver, tight end hybrid. He's bulked up. He's learned how to block. He catches everything. He's a 6'7" frame. I'm excited for him. I'm curious if they let Higbee go, especially with this. The Rams are making plays, man. So Jonah Jackson is heading to the Rams. Whew. They are loading up, man. That offense is going to be fun. So Jonah Jackson's interesting. He really fits that system. Get him on the move. Athletic run blocker. Not the most reliable pass protector, if I'm being honest, but and that's a little steeper than I would be comfortable paying Jonah Jackson, but it's not enough that I'm like gonna really criticize the deal. What is fascinating about this, though, is they just signed Steve Avila, or they just spent basically their first round pick last year on Steve Avila. So my question is, are they moving one of those guys to center? I think Steve Avila took snaps at center at the Senior Bowl last year, so I do wonder if he is going to be moving to center. So that'll be something to keep an eye on, but yeah, the Rams are going to be fun, dude. Very, very fun. Okay. We also have Darnell Savage going to Jacksonville. I need to see the money on that one. 3-year deal kind of scares me a little bit. What I would be curious, though, is if they see him as a slot corner in their system. I think Darnell Savage could be very similar to what Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was for Ryan Nielsen's Saints. So Ryan Nielsen is the new DC in Jacksonville. I was always, one of my big frustrations with Joe Barry is his unwillingness to just become a man team, make Darnell Savage a press man slot corner. Yeah, we'll see where that goes, kind of how they use him, what that money is. We'll try to keep an eye on that. Yeah, so we are caught up on transactions, I think. we have a few more previous news pieces to react to. I gotta find my free. Oh no, I got it open. We're good. Does this mean the Packers are going in on a free agent safety? I mean, that's the thought, right? They don't have anybody on the roster. I didn't think they were going to bring Savage back. That ship seemed to have sailed. But the Packers they're just not a big free agent team. But this would be the year to go get some veteran safety. Like, this is not a good safety class. So I hope they do something at safety. Josh Jacobs, Packers? Are we going to have a ring the bell moment? Oh my God, dude. Let's go. And Bryce Huff with the Eagles. Whoa. All right. We got a lot to talk about. This shit's going off. All right. First off, let me say, ring the bell. For those that say I don't know what I'm talking about with the Packers, how you guys chat? How freaking long have I been telling you that the Packers are going to pursue a top running back? Now, I said Derrick Henry. Josh Jacobs, very similar process here, right? Like, they want two backs. They want to run the ball. They want a big guy. They were in on Jonathan Taylor. They struck out. So, for those that say I don't know my Packers, I predicted them to go 9-7 this year, or 9-8 this year. They went 9-8. Jordan Love turned out to be pretty dang good. So I just want to say, I'm sick of people saying I'm just a biased Packers fan that, like, my predictions on the Packers kind of on the money. But anyway, obviously love that for the Packers. I've been saying they need that guy for a long time. I'm a big Josh Jacobs fan, so that's exciting. And it's going to be a nice transition because, and I just had another thought that I wanted to hit on, but Aaron Jones is going to be in his last year in Green Bay. Josh Jacobs, I will imagine, is going to be a 2 or 3 year contract, so they have their feature back. And this also allows them to go, a little bit deeper in the draft than having to take one earlier. But I had a feeling they were going to make a splash at running back, and they did. And I love that for them. And then this one is crazy. Bryce Huff, 3-year deal with the Eagles. So they're trading someone, right? Like, you can't have 3 designated pass rushers on your team. They have Hassan Reddick, they have Nolan Smith, and they have Bryce Huff. I don't think those 3 guys can coexist. Those are 3 undersized, kind of quasi-designated pass rusher roles. I see the fit. But to me, that screams, we're going to trade Hassan Reddick and we can replace his production with a younger, cheaper player and get a pick in return. So to me, Reddick is, like, we're going to get some news here pretty soon. I think that Reddick is going to the Arizona Cardinals for a 3rd round pick to reunite with Jonathan Gannon. I'm just going to call my shot. That's happening. They also have Sweat. Yeah, for sure. But I'm just saying, you kind of need, like, early down edge guys too. Dude, I'm stoked about Josh Jacobs. That's fun. I hope he's fresh. I hope he's healthy, because he did drop off last year. There's risk involved with this signing. And it's possible that this is just like a 2-year deal, and year 2 doesn't have a lot of guarantees in it. So, well, I'm curious to see what the deals are. You know what I'm saying? Like, is that going to be a 4-year, $50 million deal for Josh Jacobs, or is it just a 2-year deal? I'm kind of open to all of it, but I'm a big fan of Josh Jacobs, man. His jump cut when he's healthy is one of the best in the league. And Josh Jacobs, too, is, in terms of running back age, he's still pretty young. Like, I know he dealt with some injuries last year, but He's 26 years old, right? So like he still has a lot of juice in the tank, I think. But the other thing is one of the biggest pros on Josh Jacobs in the draft. I didn't even think about that, Vic, that Reddick going back home to Arizona where he started would be really fun. So lock that in. But one of the big positives on Josh Jacobs coming out of the draft was he kind of broke out in his last year at Alabama. And even then, I think he only had like maybe 200 carries in that final year. Like, I could probably pull this up. I don't think he had 300 carries in his college career, Josh Jacobs. If he did, it wasn't much more than that. Usually around 2,000 touches on average is when you start to worry about a guy. Kind of starting to break down. 2,000 touches. College plus NFL. So he does have 1,300 carries. He has been getting the rock in Las Vegas. So he has 1,300 in his NFL career. So he does have a lot there. But he only had 208 rushing attempts at Alabama. So if you're saying 2,000 is the kind of where you're worried, he's got 2 good years before he gets to, and he's going to be splitting with Aaron Jones. So like maybe they can milk that into 3. Now it's everybody's built different, right? But if that's their line of thinking, I think it makes sense. That's crazy that Josh Jacobs was a first-round pick with just 208 career rushing attempts. His tape was insane, though. We do have some super chats to catch up on, and then we have a few more transactions that I haven't talked about yet. And then we are nearing the end of this stream. But we still got some work to do here. So Echo says, I hate to bring up Zach Wilson, but with all the talk on the Rams, I have to ask, are the Rams Zach's best chance to actually allies, sit and learn in an NFL room behind McVay? Could see a Geno Smith career arc. I love it, dude. Like 49ers or the Rams, sign me up, man. For Zach Wilson to just get another chance. Although it is tough because I felt like he showed honestly some aspects of good football this year. That Chiefs game was insane. The Jets offense was just not conducive to success. It was an all-around disaster. The offense that was built for Aaron Rodgers was a faulty build with Allen Lazard and leaning on Aaron Rodgers to, do the play calling, basically. They had horrible play calling. Their offensive line all got hurt, by the way. And then the receivers stunk. So, nobody. I think it's hard to say nobody because, I do think the idea of Aaron Rodgers being specifically useful with Allen Lazard and specifically useful with Nathaniel Hackett, I'm going to get hate for saying only Aaron Rodgers could have made that offense work. But, literally only Aaron Rodgers could have made that offense work because some of the specific bodies that were put in place that can work with him. Other than that, that was a shell of an NFL offense. So I do think Zach Wilson, still should get an opportunity to learn the position at least. Crazier things have happened. From Tim, we got a super chat here. Is there a guy consistently mocked way higher than he has any business going this year? A la Keon White last year. I can't think of any that are as obvious as Keon White. Keon White was dude, that is not a first round player. What are we doing? I would say the guy for me would be, and I don't think he's getting mocked there as much anymore, but it is Troy Franklin out of Oregon. In this class especially, but even overall, I just don't see a first round receiver there. I see the definition of a like kind of a John Mechie or maybe Van Jefferson. Like I see the definition of a day 2 receiver, good route runner, good athlete, decent hands, good production, but that to me is not a first round receiver. So that would be the guy. We got some more super chats to catch up on here. Thoughts on the Niners wanting Joey Bosa? I mean, that'd be hella fun. I don't know if that's necessarily smart for them, but boy, would the upside be fantastic there. If they can make it happen, I'm game for it, but it'd be risky. Also, yeah, Mike, great point. Mike, my fellow Packers fan. One of the most underrated aspects of the Josh Jacobs signing is that A.J. Dillon is all the way the fuck out of Green Bay. And we saw last year, Matt LaFleur's obsession with A.J. Dillon was a strain on the offense. The second A.J., and this is harsh, but the second A.J. Dillon got hurt, that's like when the offensive clicked into place. Now, other things were going on, but dude, a little bit of fear in me was like, they're going to bring back A.J. Dillon on a 1-year deal and keep doing this thing. Now you have the guy that you actually wanted, a really good power back with great vision that's going to hit the hole, make you pay at the second level. Fantastic. Yeah, I'm excited about Josh Jacobs. That's cool, man. Best running back duo in the league easily, right? Like, is there a debate for that? I don't think so. Not with the way Aaron Jones played last year. Also, Cade, thank you for the super chat. Just appreciate the kind comment. Warms my heart, my man. Cole says, was that a negative for JT? So many touches in college. I don't remember if I wrote that as a negative. For him, but it is something I at least nowadays look at. I think what happened with James Robinson has really been an awakening for me. I liked James Robinson as a sleeper. I think a lot of you guys won your fantasy leagues maybe because I brought you on to James Robinson as a potential sleeper the year that Leonard Fournette was hanging out there. It was one of my good calls back then. I really liked him, but one of his things was like, the dude ran for he played 4 seasons. He ran for 6,000 yards in college. He had 1,400 career touches. And as we saw, basically the second he hit that 2,000 rush mark in the league, he lost his acceleration and he's been irrelevant in the league after looking like a promising young rookie, but he really wasn't a young rookie in terms of tread on the tires. So it is certainly something on my radar. Just a couple more nice super chats. Shout out to Thor and Dylan. Thank you, you guys. All right, let's do a little refresh. We have a few more signings from yesteryear to catch up on. Wow. Dude, these edge rushers are getting the bag. Dorrance Armstrong up to $45 million. He's been efficient. That's basically the Trey Hendrickson contract. I don't think Dorrance showed to be quite as good as Trey Hendrickson, but if you got to pay to get the guy to come out to Washington, I guess. I'm not going to act like I'm excited about that deal. They needed somebody on the edge. He's a fit. Dan Quinn believes in him. I'm not going to slam the signing, but that's a lot for a guy that's been a backup. But I would have said that about Trey Hendrickson. You never know, I guess, if you want some optimism. If you want a little more optimism, Dorrance Armstrong is fascinating in that when he came out of Kansas, he was an undersized, he was like a Kayvon Chason type, where it was he's athletic, but he's tiny. And he has built up. He has become an awesome run defender, clearly has the work ethic. He has the athleticism. So I'm intrigued with him as a full starter. and we will see where it goes. They paid up for potential, basically. Okay. Will Lutz, kicker signing. I'll let you guys do your own analysis on that one. But yeah, we are almost all caught up on the transactions from yesterday. Kendrick Bourne did re-sign. I missed that. That must have happened late at night. Kendrick Bourne goes to New England. So they bring him back. They need somebody to catch the football. I think keeping your own makes sense. Bourne's a good player. He's been a good fit there. 3 years, $20 million. That's like nothing. So I think keeping the status quo is a totally fine process for New England. And then for me, that's like, okay, you got Hunter Henry, you got your Kendrick Bourne, you have your slot guy in Deuce Douglas. To me, that screams like, let's slide in Marvin Harrison as the alpha with all these complementary pieces that do different things. I'm just saying. Marvin Harrison is like a no-brainer slot into the pieces that they have. Russell Wilson, we talked about that. Graham Glasgow signed a 3-year, $20 million extension with Detroit. Okay, that's fine. An option at right guard. They just lost Jonah Jackson. They're familiar with him. So that's good and well. He had his ups and downs, but he's a solid guard. Mitch Morse signed this morning, so we are now getting into the stuff that happened this morning. Before we went live, that we still got to talk about. So Mitch Morse, I think this is one of the signings of the day from a all-around value perspective. So they get their starting center. Mitch Morse is a top 10 to 15 guy. Love this. One of their big problems in Jacksonville, frankly, has been the young center that they believed in. I thought was an overdraft when they took the Kentucky kid. His name's escaping me off the top of my head. Hasn't worked out there, but they get a veteran. The hidden beauty of this deal is they signed a guy that had been released in Mitch Morse, which means that it doesn't impact their compensatory pick formula. It's just kind of how things work, is if you sign a guy before the new league year, and if a guy's been released, you can go and sign him. Whereas most of these deals we're hearing about are agreements that will then happen on Wednesday when the new league year happens. Those will all impact the compensatory pick formula, but Mitch Morse will not. So if they're going to lose Ridley to this massive deal that's going to net them a good compensatory pick, them sweeping in and getting an offensive lineman now is not going to impact that. So that's a really good move for Jacksonville. The Colts re-signed Zaire Franklin. We hit on that earlier. 3 years, $30 million. I think that's what he would have got on the open market. He was really good for them. I don't think people really realized how much better he was than Shaq Leonard until they released Shaq Leonard. But he's just a really good, solid linebacker. I think that's fair money for him. And then Michael Pittman also with the Colts re-signed. That leaves us all caught up on stuff that happened before we went live. We are, I believe, all caught up on Super Chats. No, we're not. We have one from Parker. How would I feel about Higgins to Tennessee? Love it, right? Like, why not? Probably cost you your second round pick and a little bit of something else. But you got the Callahan connection. Levis, Hopkins, Higgins. See what you get from Treylon Burks. You got 2 running backs now. You signed Cushenberry. You'd be really starting to build some players around your young quarterback there. I'd be pretty excited to see what that would look like. But yeah, we are all caught up. We've reacted to some big signings. We are 2.5 hours into this thing. I think I'm going to wind down the stream, you guys. I do still need to have some time to get... I mentioned I'm going to Mexico this weekend. I'm going to do a podcast for the Fully Inflated Football show to react to all of the big signings, which we got 2,500 of you in the chat here. I know that all of you don't subscribe to the podcast channel, don't listen to the Fully Inflated Football podcast, but I imagine if you're watching me live, you might be interested, and you might not know that I have a podcast where, honestly, a lot of my good content is over there that I just don't post on the main channel. But here's the link to the YouTube right there for the Fully Inflated Football podcast. But also, you can just pull out your phone and search Fully Inflated Football. Or if you just search my name, Marcus Whitman, it should show up on your audio feed, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you do get your podcasts. So if nothing else, there's going to be a very similar show to this, but it won't be live, where I'm going through all of the signings. I probably will, if I talked about it here today, I'll probably leave that here and then talk about all the other new stuff that happens, just because I got a busy week. Going to Mexico this weekend. Can't freaking wait. My wife and I going to get a little getaway, but I also have a top 10 edge video coming either tomorrow or Wednesday. I think I promised Factor that it would be out tomorrow, but I don't know if I'm going to have it tomorrow. So we'll see about that. Still got a couple more evals to watch for that. And by the looks of it, I might have a 4-way tie for the 10 spot, so that might be more like a top 12 edge rusher video. But anyway, unreal stream. Oh, wait, Kirk just happened? All right. We'll finish with Kirk. That would be very fitting. All right, so we will finish with Kirk. But I was just going to say make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the edge rush video tomorrow. But Kirk Cousins to the Falcons. Here we go. We've been anticipating this for a long time. Honestly, all of the analysis has been laid out, but it has now happened. That big domino has fallen. What a way to end the stream here. This means so much for specifically these two teams, right? Like, this sets the course for the Falcons. They have a clear 4-year deal. So there you go. That's why the Vikings didn't go there. So they're going for it in that NFC South with Kirk Cousins. Hallelujah. As a Kyle Pitts fantasy owner, we have someone to throw him the fucking football. And hopefully an offensive coordinator that's going to learn how to use him. But I like this for Atlanta, man. They signed the defensive coordinator. Vibes are good. Your division sucks. It's going to continue to suck. They're the clear favorites now. And then you can get in, see what Raheem can do with the defense. And then I love the Zach Robinson hiring as well. It's going to be the exact same system coming from Sean McVay. It doesn't just help Kirk Cousins, but this helps Zach Robinson too. Like, Kirk is going to be able to coach Zach Robinson a lot of the ways too. So love it for the Falcons, dude. I know it's going to be expensive, but Kirk played great last year. The real risk for this signing is he's coming off an Achilles, but Kirk's not really a runner. I think he should be able to recover from that. So it's exciting for the Falcons, I think, just like they have set their window in place. They will have one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFC, and I like the staff. I like the talent. I'm excited to see where this goes for them. I think this has all lined up really well, right? Like when they signed Raheem Morris, it was kind of like, oh, is this the best long-term option for you? And maybe it isn't, but like this all has come together with Zach Robinson in place for a couple of years, Kirk, and the defense. So I'm a big fan of it. And then for the Vikings, I think it's going to lead to some mixed reactions. I think on one hand, it's like, crap, there goes really any shot that we're going to win a Super Bowl next year. If you felt like you could compete and maybe you get lucky and there's that 5% chance that it happens, anytime that's ripped out of you as a Vikings fan, it's going to hurt a little bit. But I think there's also a liberating side of this where it's like, okay, now they can turn the table with honestly this is the most QB-friendly job opening in a long time. This is a spot where you have 2 cornerstone tackles. You've got an excellent head coach. You have the best receiver in football. You have one of the best number 2 receivers in football in Jordan Addison. You have a top 5 tight end. I mean, what's not to like about anybody going there? And I do think that situation lifted Kirk up. I think Kirk continued to get better within that system, but this is a structure where, like, you could honestly go if they can't make it happen. Like, I think their number 1 priority is going to be, let's get to number 3 with New England. That's going to be expensive. It's going to cost you future first-round picks. But if you really like Daniels, or hell, if they trade for 3 for J.J. McCarthy, I think that'd be a little crazy. But maybe it's let's get to 5 for J.J. McCarthy. Maybe Harbaugh wants to throw J.J. McCarthy a bone, put him in a good situation. Wouldn't be the best decision to make necessarily for his team, but I don't know. We're getting way ahead of ourselves here. But I think their priority is going to be to trade up for one of these quarterbacks. Or maybe they fall in love with Michael Penix and want to trade down. Could be an option too, but it is a little liberating for the Vikings. The last thing I was going to say, though, is I like this as like a Sam Darnold, Jacoby Brissett spot. Not in like a we're going to win the Super Bowl type of way, but I actually really like that trajectory for the Vikings. If it's, maybe JJ is there at 8. You sign Darnold, you sign Brissett, and you start that guy for a year. And Darnold, like, I get it, Sam Darnold, but he's a guy that I could see him kind of reaching his upside in Minnesota. I'm still not quite fully quitting Sam Darnold. I know I should, but could I see him turning into a starting caliber quarterback for them and getting another 3-year deal? I think it's a good way to kind of play your cards. So, it's the domino has fallen, you guys. How exciting. I'm gonna head out. We've been live for 2.5 hours. You guys are incredible. What a stream. Love you guys. The support has been incredible. And we are really just getting started, man. We really are. We're going to have like top 10 videos for the positions every single week leading up to the draft. I will head out just like to let you guys know the Patreon content right now is really starting to pick up. The draft board is getting updates every couple days. Get up to date on where I'm at with all the players. And then once April comes around, which is like 3 weeks from now, I'm going to be doing 7-round mock drafts for all 32 teams. So that's exclusive content on Patreon. You can support the channel, get exclusive content, all that. We're out of here, man. That's enough plugging. Appreciate you guys for watching, and have a great day. Peace out.